The name of the seminar is Finding Your Fit, and it's about the college process, because the college process is about finding a fit. And just to do a few announcements at the front end, want you to know that junior year is a great time for students. If you are strong academically and you have an interest in using some of the summer to further yourself in certain areas, Governor's School is an option. So put a flyer out there with the different types of Governor's Schools that are available. It's a month-long program, and you can get college credit for that. So it's worth exploring. And the applications have just come online on September 1st. Also, for juniors, there's an opportunity to go to Boys State or Girls State. That's a shorter program, so that's 1 week. And Boys State or Girls State would appeal to those of you who have an interest in government. If you want to see how a city government runs or a state government, you will know when you leave there. They have all kinds of really fabulous speakers, including the governor, that come in to talk to you and talk about what they do. And you spend time running for different offices and learning about those offices. So it's also a really good opportunity. If you are interested in a military academy or any competitive school, to have Governor's School or Boys State, Girls State on your application is to make your application rise to the top. So wanted to let you know about those opportunities. Also, this year is the year that for juniors, you've taken the PSAT twice now. This is the year that you can take it, and if you happen to be a good test taker, this is the time to do a little bit of preparation before the test, because you can earn titles in the National Merit Scholarship Competition. So you can be either a finalist or you can be a commended student, and also there are lots of colleges that like to see that and will give you scholarship money if you happen to be a good test taker and do well on that test. And you can see me afterwards with any questions. All right, so I mentioned college is a match to be made, not a prize to be won. And so it is about the fit, and I talk a lot to the seniors about knowing yourself well enough to know the kind of school that would be a good match for you. Some students thrive in a large university setting where you go on campus and there are activities all the time and always things to do, and big football and all of this. But some students like the personal interactions of professors and might thrive, in a smaller school setting. And so knowing about yourself helps you to be able to choose. All right, some things to think about. Obviously, when you go to a college, you want to end up with a major that's going to help you find a career, in a job that's going to meet your needs after you finish all of your schooling. But there's more to it than that. So you want to find a college that will do that, but you also want to find a college that will help to help your character develop in a good way. So think about what you might want to look like 10 years from now, and then choose a college that you think will help you get there. It might be a Christian college. It might be a public university that where you can identify with clubs that will help you to develop in certain ways. So it will. There are lots of opportunities, and you have to do a lot of exploration to find that match. You also want to think about the number of students that graduate in 4 years from that college, or at all. A lot of schools now will give the 6-year figure because it's very common for students to take 5 years now rather than just 4. But if you will go on Naviance, and I guess this is time to say, Miss Stanford's going to be gone next week, so I'm going to be in the Bible classes, whether you have her Monday or whether you have her Tuesday, to walk you through Naviance. And Ms. Kilburn's going to do that a little bit tonight, but I'm going to go into detail with you and help you identify some schools and find out how you can find those numbers. If you see a school that has a 30% retention rate, you might want to ask why, and that would probably be a very good question. If you have a school that you can find that has a 90% retention rate, that probably says that the students that go there are very satisfied with the education that they're getting and the activities that are there and their fit there. As important as it is to get accepted, it's even more important to be able to graduate. All right, so I put on the table a college admission chart, and I like to use this just for illustration. So there are different types of schools. There are highly selective schools, traditional, liberal, and open. There's a fit for everybody. If you are a straight A student taking all AP classes and, got a 35 your first time taking the ACT, you might want to challenge yourself, and you might be a good fit for the top category of schools, the highly selective schools. And I've listed some examples of some of those schools. That's not to say, well, let me go on. Selective school would be that's just a little bit less competitive, but still fairly competitive, and a list of those schools. Again, these are only some selective schools on this list, but they're schools that a lot of our students have already gone to, so we have some basis for knowing them. You can, if there's a school that's not on this list that you're interested in, you can look up the criteria and kind of see where it fits. But that might tell you what a safety school will be. And a safety school would be a school that you feel like you could easily get into because your grades or your test scores are higher than the average on that. So open would be all high school graduates are accepted, so that a lot of the community colleges want to make sure that everybody can have an opportunity for higher education. It's a good place to get started, but they also have some cutoff scores, and you can see for the ACT, that's their only criteria, is in order to go into a college earning class that you've earned this ACT. And if you're not quite there, then they have classes that will help you get there. So most colleges choose students based on quantitative things such as grade points and test scores and activities, as long as the character is strong. You all have probably read some of the recent media information about students that have gotten caught through social media. They portray themselves one way, and then a college thinks, that sounds too good to be true, let me check. And then they find some things. So one student, I think, went online bragging that she'd gotten into all these schools, and when that was checked out, that it was not true, and they withdrew her offer of admission from the one school. Other students, they've gone online and found character issues and have withdrawn. So it just tells you to be smart and don't live a double life, one. Have strong character, but it also tells you that when you are looking at, social media, it's a thumbprint that doesn't go away. So colleges, not all the time, but sometimes will look on that. So also probably a good time to mention with the email addresses, you all have a professional email address. It's your CAK email address. My recommendation is just use that for anything professional, and applying to colleges would be that. Colleges are concerned about students coming to them that lack integrity, so that's a key thing they're looking for. And it works both ways. Academics and character development should both be present as you apply to college. You know what? This isn't working anyway, so I can put it up closer. Let me just make a quick switch. All right. So let me tell you about some college fairs that are coming up. I was very excited. Today was the kickoff for college visits at our school. So today we had Lipscomb and we had the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga. Mrs. Kilburn is going to show you a little bit later Naviance and how you can find out which colleges are visiting. You can explore colleges as a student and as a parent. Only students will be able to request colleges next year, but you can use that to kind of track when transcripts are requested and when they're sent and when the letters of recommendation are sent. It's really a very useful tool, and the only way that you can get transcripts sent from CAK. So you want to go to college fairs because you can have an opportunity to see a wide variety of schools and gain broad knowledge. So there are a lot of schools in one location, And if you can think ahead of time of a few questions that you want to ask, then when you go in, the time can be much more productive. I recommend that students and parents go to these. Those dates, I'm going to send this out right away, I promise. But the dates are Monday, October 2nd, and that's going to be at Oak Ridge High School. So it's easier to park there and easier to get around because it's not as big a fair. So if if that's a convenient night for you to go, I would encourage you to do that. It's at Oak Ridge High School from 5:30 to 7. The next night on Tuesday, so this is basically College Fair Week. So Tuesday, October 3rd, Farragut, Bearden, and Hardin Valley take turn hosting the fairs. And so there are 120 or so colleges that come to this. So at Farragut, it's 6:30 to 8:30 this year. And you all are invited to come to that. There's also a Christian College Fair. We used to host that. We hosted it 7 years in a row and decided to share it with other schools in the area. So we're talking about making that on a rotating basis. But NACAP sponsors that. So that's the North American Coalition of Christian and Missions Personnel. And so in order for colleges to be invited to that, they have to be a member of an organization and sign a statement of faith so that it's not a school that used to be a Christian school, but so you know what you're getting, okay? So that's going to be at Concord Christian School on October 17th from 6:30 to 8:30. And somewhere in the middle of that, they will also provide a financial aid workshop, which could be very useful. So schools from across the country come to that. I think there's usually, Taylor, some of the schools in California, but a lot of the local schools. So if you're interested in Lipscomb, Bryan, Lee, I'm leaving out a lot, King College, but these are schools that you will find all together in one place that night. So that would be a good one to put on your list as well. The Regional College Fair we host every January, so again, that's most useful for juniors. And on that night, again, schools like Carson Newman, Cumberland, ETSU, Hiwassee, King, Lee, Lincoln Memorial, Maryville, MTSU, Pellissippi, Roane State, Tennessee Tech, Tusculum, University of Tennessee Knoxville, UTC, and Walter State. Those always come consistently, but there are also several other people that come and set up to help students start thinking about financial aid, scholarships that they can begin applying for, things to start looking for, just beginning to educate about the financial aid process. All right, so college visits. Let me speak to that just a minute. You know that the policy has changed on absences, and it was announced that there would be 8 absences per semester. And then we asked, what about college visits? Do those count within or without? So I think next year you'll see a more defined statement about that. But for this year, when you take your college visits, and I didn't, and I really mean when you take your college visits, because juniors, this is the time to be going and looking. You don't want to put that off till senior year. So get some schools in your head, even if it's just to experience what it feels like to be on a large campus or a small school. And I know some of you have been, and I'm really happy that you've gotten, you've been able to take some of the visits. But so if parents would shoot me an email saying we're going to visit this school at this time, if you will do that, and if you will get a little slip, all the colleges will give you a slip saying that you visited on this date and bring it back, I will put it in my folder. And then if, heaven forbid, somebody gets mono or gets a concussion or some emergency happens that makes you go over your 8 days, I will certainly go to bat for you. We will call that an extenuating circumstance, and you will not lose credit. So it's just communication on that. Colleges like at least 2 weeks notice when you come, because they like to plan. They have student workers who come and lead tour groups, so they like to know how many students to plan for. If you only allow 2 weeks, you may find out that the day you want to go is already booked. So think in the future. You know that we have fall break coming up. I would recommend that you really think about some dates when the weather's still pretty, before it gets too cold, and so in the fall and then in the spring. Think about that and go ahead and plan those in advance. UT, I think all the Saturdays are booked now.
Do the schools welcome those visits any time of year?
The schools welcome you to come. Yeah, that's how they keep going, is by selling their school. So they want you to come. They want to know that the student's been on campus and that it's a fit for them, because they want to retain students. So they will tell you that it's very important to visit. So. There is also a parent conference day. Some of you may have conferences, and that is wonderful, but that would also be an afternoon coming up that you might look and see about going to a visit. It's important to get the overall feel of the campus, and you really can't do that through pictures. No website is good enough to give you that feel. And again, with the seniors, I talk a lot about personalities. So different schools have different personalities, and that can be formed by, even from the president, what kind of presence the president has on campus and the kind of things that are important to either him or her. So, and you don't know that till you go. And remember, you are always interviewing through your visits, through the conversations, through social media. But if you take the time to go, that's what they call a demonstrated interest, and that's a good thing. You want to demonstrate that you're interested in the school, because if you're borderline and they see that you have, been on their campus several times and somebody has not, that would weigh in your favor. So the timeline, juniors, this is the time to dream and to think big. Go through, if you're thinking about a school, you'll be going on Naviance on colleges I'm thinking about, and you can formulate a long list. That way, there's a spot on there that you can compare yourself to. But I would say at this point, dream big, come up with maybe 12 schools, even if in your heart of hearts you already know you're going to UT, because we have some, that bleed orange, and that's all good. But if you dream big, find out. The more you know about other schools, the more that will inform your decision about the school that you choose, even if it turns out to be the school you started with. So that's a good thing. By the time you're seniors, you want a shorter list, anywhere between 3 and 6 schools. You will want to hit the ground running. So junior year is the year to do most of the work. Beginning in the summer, you can start doing your applications. And then by the September or in October, you want to get those off. So a year from now, you probably will have submitted at least one application. So hope that helps you to know how to get started. You want to apply early, and there are different definitions about early. The Tennessee Promise and the UT Scholarship, you have to have applied by November 1st. UT, the regular application is not until December 15th, but we tell all of our students they should have all their applications in by November 1st. That way, they can get back to studying, they can enjoy Thanksgiving, and then they'll come right back and begin studying for an exam. So they really want to have have all that taken care of beforehand.
Is that junior year or senior year?
Senior year. Yeah, good question. Their chances increase with early applications. So if you apply September, October, many schools will let you know in advance. So you will notice next year as you start to apply, but I just want you to be thinking about this because you'll hear this as you go on these visits. There are 2 ways to apply early. So in addition to the regular application, you can apply early decision. Hallelujah. Thank you. You can apply early decision, but I wouldn't recommend it. So think early decision, no. And the reason I don't recommend early decision is you will find out early, but once you find out, let's say you apply in early September and you find out October 1st, you have to withdraw every other application that you have sent in. You don't have an opportunity to see who's going to provide what financial aid for you. You don't have a chance to really compare or take time to go back for that second visit after you've been admitted. So I wouldn't recommend. Is that showing up again? Okay, sorry. But if you apply early action means you apply early, and they guarantee that you'll hear by a certain date No strings attached. You still have all the way till May 1st, and May 1st is a universal day when you have to let every college know, yes, I'm attending, the one, yes, I'm attending, or let the other ones know that you've accepted an offer to another college. So, early action is a good thing. Early decision, you probably want to avoid. I've had students not quite understand the early decision before, and that's created a lot of problems because colleges, if you call them and say, oh, I didn't understand that, I didn't really mean that, then they have the right to call all the other colleges and tell them, and then they don't go anywhere. Now, I haven't had anybody be that mean, but I've had some admissions people be really upset, and then they don't come to visit us anymore, and they don't give favor to other students applying. So it is a really serious thing. All right, the colleges, of course, are making decisions based on the big three, on grades, on test scores, on co-curricular activities. I think that's not a surprise. But just so you'll know, grades are based on your 6th semester transcript. When is 6th semester? So it's after this year. So you think that you have this year and next year to get your grades up where you want them to be. Really, you have this year. Some schools, for instance, UT, if your grade point average is not quite where they want it, they're not going to reject you outright. They are going to say, send us a mid-year transcript. So sometimes they will allow you to have one more semester, to pull your grade up. But juniors, this is the year to really work hard and show the good grades. They will forgive, most of them will forgive a bad freshman year knowing that you have a lot of adjustments to make. They won't do that for junior year. So work hard. Our grade point scale is on a 4.0. They will ask you about weighted and unweighted, just so you'll become familiar with these terms. We do weighted grades, so if you've taken honors, AP, dual enrollment classes, we're going to give you the advantage because those are the grades we're going to use when calculating your grade point average. And that's the grade point average that we're going to give them. And they accept that. They also look for academic rigor. So that's not to say that suddenly junior year you're going to take every AP class that's offered and every dual enrollment class and every honor class just to have 1 year to show. You need to balance it. You need to figure out what classes you're going to do well in, and if those classes include AP honors and dual enrollment, then you certainly want to include them. And we'll have that conversation if anybody comes to drop an AP class before the 9 weeks are up. But I think y'all are off to a good start, and that won't be an issue. So grades are important, in junior year. So let's talk about standardized testing for just a minute. So the PSAT will be offered on October 25th, and this is your chance, if you're a good test taker again, so if you happen to do well anywhere in the high 80 percentile, anywhere in the 90 to the 90 percentile, this would be the time to spend time before October 25th really preparing for that. Because if you end up in the 98th or 99th percentile, and we've had students in the 85th percentile go up to that range just by spending a lot of time preparing for it. So, that would be something you'd want to think about. Also, the ACT or the SAT you want to take in the spring of this year. So if you've already signed up to take it and want a baseline, that's fine. It's fine to get a baseline. But usually February is a good time to get a baseline. Then you know what subjects you want to really come up in, because colleges love to see the the April test date and then either a September or October test date for the ACT. And remember that there are several schools that superscore, so any more students are taking this test 3 and 4 times. Now, if you do really well, your first or second time, I would say save your money. But if you want to continue to try to get it up, either for admission purposes or scholarship purposes, keep that in mind.
Would it be better to take that in the spring where you've had more of your class?
Yeah, that's why colleges recommend the April test date, because you've been almost all the way through junior year. You're still kind of in your stride. You're not worn out from school. June, some students have a lot of success in June, but some students finish their exams in May. You get there, you go into summer mode. It's really hard to come out of summer mode and go in to take a 4-hour test. So, again, it depends on the student.
Do you think February to April is long enough to do test prep kind of things if there's areas of weakness?
Yes.
Or is there not a reason to maybe do the October to get more of a baseline?
You can do the October. It's not, and knowing that probably with a few more months in English and math, the scores are going to come up. So, yeah. So, or there's
I think February to April's long enough to
there's
do
a
test
December
prep.
ACT. There are also several, the SAT, so let me just talk about the SAT as well. We've been primarily an ACT school. A few students, top students, have taken the SAT and done well. Those that do well on the PSAT, need to go on to validate their scores by taking an SAT. But last year, SAT made a drastic change because students were finding the ACT easier. So if you were a student, which test would you want to take? So SAT realized they were losing money, so they redesigned their test. And they were really smart. They became partners with Kaplan, Khan Academy, wrong K, Khan Academy. And so if you don't do well, they will give you tutoring to see why you missed certain questions and how you could answer them better. So, and they took away a lot of the critical thinking questions and made it a whole lot more like the ACT. So, students, you've taken the PSAT, this will be your 3rd year, so you have an idea of what the test is like. You took a pre-ACT last year, so you have a little bit of an idea what that was like. If you want to compare the scores between the two and see how they compare, which one you did better on, you can see Ms. Kilburn or myself, and we can help you with that. So, but whatever test you take, I would just focus on.
Did you say Khan Academy partnered with ACT or SAT?
SAT.
Oh, thanks.
On the ACT with the reading or the writing, is there any purpose to do that or not do that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm glad you, because most colleges want to see one writing sample, but I wouldn't spend your money or the time doing it more than once. Mostly they just kind of glance at it and they still look at the composite. If you're applying for an engineering program, they're going to look at math and science. So those scores will need to be high. If you're looking for a writing type program, they're going to look at the English and reading. So the college readiness benchmark. So when you take the ACT, these scores, you can look at your scores and make sure. Colleges want to see at least these numbers because that indicates if you would be successful taking a freshman level English comp class, college algebra, social studies class, or biology class. So those are kind of the minimum you want to shoot for. And again, every point higher helps you with both admission and scholarships. With the test, I'll mention one more thing. I gave you that yellow sheet that talks about the selective colleges, etc. You can look at that as well because you know that the scholarships aren't going to be awarded probably unless you're in the top 25 percentile or higher for merit based. So if you look at that and you want to be strategic about it, you can choose a school where you know you'll get in. And maybe the scores are, and the grade point average and the test scores are a little bit under where where you fall, and put yourself in a good position to be able to earn some scholarship money. I think I've already talked a little bit about the difference between the ACT and the SAT. They're just so similar anymore. ACT still has 4 sections, and the SAT has 3, but pretty much most of our students are score pretty equally on either one. All right, to take test prep or not, really depends. If your goal is strictly to get into college and your scores are in the mid 50 percentile range, save your money. But if you are a couple of points away from being in their scholarship range and it would pay off, then I think you can see it probably would certainly be worth putting the money out to be able to do well, do a couple of points better on the test. And I think we put out some agencies. You know, there are a lot of good agencies out of there, and some students do better on one than the other. So I'll just leave it at that. If you have questions, you can ask us. So a 21 or higher ACT, everyone should shoot for that, because at least that or higher, because that qualifies a student for the Hope Scholarship. If you go to Tennessee, then that's $3,500 for the first 2 years, and it's $4,500 the last 2 years. So that's definitely worth it.
Is that good at private schools?
In Tennessee, yes. And you can also earn an extra $1,000 a year if you're a particularly good test taker, because if you have a 3.75 and at least a 29, so if you've taken it and you feel really pretty good about that 28, that's a good score. I'm going to get in that school. One more point would earn you $1,000 over 4 years. That's important to parents, so, and worth doing. And they do not use a super score for that. So you might have a 29 for UT's purpose by super scoring, but you might fall, you know, if your highest composite is a 28, they will not accept that for the General Assembly Merit Scholarship.
Can you remind us super score?
Yeah, yes. Yeah, thank you. Super score. 4 sections of the ACT, and if you take it 3 times, they'll look for your highest English. They'll look for your highest math, highest science, highest reading. They will take those 4 subscores, add them together, and divide by 4. So the way they get their composite anyway is just to add all 4 sections and divide by 4, but you can choose your highest to improve your chances. So when I tell you in a little bit about UT's average GPA and average test scores these days, don't panic, because they're super scored. The GPA is super scored because they take your 16 core classes and the highest that you've earned in any of those classes and re-average it, and they do the same for the ACT. So not to say that they haven't gotten competitive, they just continues to go like this, but not quite as scary as it sounds. So UT's average ACT score for scholarships now is at a 32.
Is that 32 not super scored?
For UT's purposes, it's super scored.
But did you say earlier that for scholarship purposes, they don't?
For the Hope and the General Assembly Merit, those are one-time composite scores. Not every college will super score. UT does, I think Auburn.
Those scholarships don't be offered through the state rather than by the college. The college scholarships are based on the college score, but the state ones are not super scored. ACT doesn't advocate for super scoring.
And this is a good time to mention that Tuesday night is the date that we were able to get Rita Keaton, who works for CAK, which is the agency that runs this program for the state. So she's coming next Tuesday night at 7, and we'll talk about the FAFSA, which is a free application for federal student aid. We'll talk about the Hope Scholarship. We'll talk about other ways to get money for college. So I would highly encourage you to come. You will certainly want to come next year, because this is right before you have to fill out the FAFSA. The FAFSA used to be in January. It's moved back to October, and it's your income from the prior year. So won't be this year's income, it will be last year's income. But it took me a lot of times to hear it. So I would really highly recommend that you come at least twice, this year and next year, to the financial aid workshop if you're available. Co-curricular activities, so what you do outside of class is important. Sports, clubs and organizations, youth group, community service, jobs held. Guys, your capstone is huge. I can't tell you how many students end up writing about what they've done in capstone, and it makes a great essay for schools that require essays. It also gives you something in addition that you can put on your resume, and you may think it's work, thinking about it and getting it prepared, but you are really glad when you are, at the point of applying to colleges to have some things to say about the capstone. So. Also, very important, letters of recommendation, essays, leadership opportunities, and community service. So I think I'm going to talk about letters of recommendation a little bit more in a minute. So I've been talking away. I need 9 students to come up front. Or it's probably all the students. All the students come up front. Yeah, right. Guys, come on. This won't be painful, I promise. This will not embarrass you.
Blame me on your parents.
All right, I'm going to demonstrate. I'm not going to demonstrate. This game is going to demonstrate to you what it means, what things college admissions people look for. All right, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Sorry, y'all get to take a front row and cheer on. Okay, I want you to line up in front of these students. Sorry, they're kind of in the way. Line up, facing everybody by grade point average. Have the grade point average showing.
This will definitely not be.
So 4.0, 3.9, 3.8, 3.7, 3.6. Okay, y'all lined up? All right, now here are the instructions. I'm going to read a statement, and then you're going to move either towards the 4.0 or away from the 4.0 if I say plus or minus. So, let's see, any student want to participate? You're good. I can see it in your eyes. You're all good. Okay, so, why don't you come up? I want you to read the statements because I'm losing my voice.
For sure.
Okay, so let's do the first one.
If you have taken an exceptionally strong academic program.
All right, so you all can read on the back if that's the case for you. If that's the case for you and you see it on the back, move towards the 402 steps, 2 places. All right, so that applies to the rigor, right? Okay, you can get in between them. We're rearranging, actually, right here. Yeah, good. All right, next one.
If you play the oboe or the viola.
Wow. Then what do you do?
+1.
+1. All right, that's going to win some points for the admissions committee.
If you clearly stated that this college was your first choice by filing an early decision application and commitment, +2.
All right, scoot over to give him space.
If your intended major is psychology or pre-med, -1.
Ah, why would that be? Pre-med, why would that be a -1? Everybody thinks they're going pre-med when they go to college, right? Okay.
If your intended major is Greek, +2.
Yeah, Greek. How many people, they might have problems filling their Greek department, you think? So that gives an advantage, all right.
If you do not know any of your teachers well and had trouble finding someone to write your college recommendations, -2.
Whoa. Okay.
If you forgot to change the name of the college to which you were applying when you cut and pasted your college essay, -4. If you were a legacy, +2.
Okay, so legacy, to define that means that your mother or your father, grandparent, a close relative also went to that school. Because why would they give you an advantage? Why would they give favoritism. Comfortable. They're comfortable because they know that you know something about the college, your parents want you there, the chances are that it'll be a good fit.
If you did not write the optional essay for your college application, -1. If the topic of your college...
Excuse me, so when UT says optional statement, we're going to write a good one. Okay.
If the topic of your essay was my trip to France or what I learned from playing sports, -1.
Why would that be? Aren't sports important? Aren't mission trips important? Who can give me a reason that that would be a -1?
It's college.
I want you to picture yourself in an office reading essays all day long. Every essay is about sports or how I learned that poor people can be happy. You know, they start to roll their eyes. They don't mean to. It's important to you, but to them, it's what they read all the time. So you have to take an angle on that if you're going to write about that and make it different and unique. Stand out, okay?
If you wrote the essay of the year, the one that was passed around the admission office because it was so remarkable, +3.
Are essays important? They can make it or break it for you, so. It's not something you'll want to sit down and write in one night. It's something that you're going to want to write over a period of time.
If you plagiarized an AP European history paper and got caught, you're out completely.
Don't worry, Mr. Wesley.
If you will be the first in your family to attend college, +2.
Very good.
If you participated in an enriching summer program between your junior and senior years, +2.
Governor's School, Boys State, Girls State.
4.0, they're knocking me out.
If you have participated in no extracurricular activities, -3.
Spend all the time studying, get that 4.0.
Yeah.
If you have participated in a significant community service project, +1.
That would be capstone. That really does give you an advantage.
If you were an Eagle Scout, +2.
Caroline's
A Gold Scout. She's a Gold Scout.
If you were a varsity athlete, +2. If you were a varsity athlete and took second place at regionals in your sport, +1. If you got a D in an academic course at the end of your junior year, -3.
You were getting excited with this one.
If you came to the college information session and introduced yourself to the college representative, and in the case of the student who just got the D, explained the extenuating circumstances, +1.
Right.
If you were a legal resident of Idaho, +3.
Hey, how do you know that?
If you never gave your counselor any personal information for use in writing your college recommendation, -1. If your last name is Kennedy and the name of the college library is Kennedy, it's not a coincidence. Move all the way to the front and stay there.
All right, can you see what you might expect? The higher GPA would be the automatics. doesn't actually work that way. So I hope this helps you to see it a little bit. So thank you. Did any of those surprise you? Which one surprised you? What's Idaho have to do? Idaho, okay. Does anybody want to venture a guess? What does Idaho have to do with it? So Idaho does not have that big a population. And a school in Tennessee might want to be represented across the country. And so they might be looking for somebody who might bring diversity. So they do that. Anything that adds, so it's not that one person has it all together and brings everything. It's that the student body has everything and brings it together. That's why the oboe player. Maybe somebody graduated in the theater department and they need a strong male lead, and somebody here has had that experience. It might give them, you just never know.
And the Kennedy thing is just because of the name?
Just because of the name with the Kennedy thing, so. All right. Want to just talk about AP scores too, you all. This is a year where some of you have AP scores. Those are college credits that are earned in high school, but it's not for admission, it's for placement. You won't even get the scores. The scores can't even be sent to the colleges until July when they're available after your senior year. So if the score isn't where you want it to be on the AP exam, you still benefit from an AP class and learning to take a college class while in high school. And it's sent by the agency, not by the school. So you will get a little card at the end, and that will have your AP number on it. Don't lose that, because if for some reason the college doesn't get your score, that's how you get it matched up. All right, let me go back to the teacher recommendation for just a minute and the counselor recommendation. So, teacher recommendation, you're going to ask, colleges will tell you, if they say we don't require a teacher recommendation, then they're not going to look at that. They're going to look at the other factors and make a decision. If you are borderline, then you might want to send one in anyway. And borderline being, on that little chart, if you fall just below some of those requirements and want to increase your chances, at that point you might want to send in a letter of recommendation. You always ask in person, because particularly if you put it off for a while, teachers get busy and sometimes they don't have time, or they only, so you want to ask in person. Juniors, it's not too early to even ask now and get those lined up. You want to, again, ask them in person, and once you've done that, you can go on Naviance, and I'll be in the classes Monday and Tuesday and show you how to do that. Then you send them a little written note through Naviance, and that allows them to upload their letters so that they can be sent electronically. On Naviance, I think we showed you freshman year, but there's a resume feature there. And I hope you've been updating that every year, but if not, we can spend some time Monday and Tuesday doing that as well. Because it's going to be really handy to have it all in one place when you start filling out your college applications. It also is visible to teachers so that they can use that as they write their letters of recommendation. You want to give teachers at least 3 weeks minimum to write them, so that, again, I'll remind you of that next year. And thank them, because teachers, they spend all day teaching, they go home at night and spend all night grading, and somewhere they need to fit in, particularly the popular teachers that everybody has to do the letters. Then they have to fit these in, and writing a letter of recommendation takes about an hour to do the rough draft, and then coming back to it, it can take half an hour to an hour finalizing it. So it's pretty time consuming if done well. And our teachers do care about this a lot and write very nice letters of recommendation. So just a little written note once you've gotten your, even if it's when you find out where you'll be going to college, thank you, I got in this college, appreciate your help with the letters, would be very much appreciated by teachers. And junior teachers write the most letters, and how will they remember you? So, you have matured a lot through high school. Junior year is a year to really shine. Parents' role, quickly, family time, talk about financial and geographical limitations. So if you know that what you've been able to save, and we all do our best for our kids, and we've been able to put aside a little bit, but if we know that that's going to be a budget that will be better if a student attends in-state, tell them. Don't have them dreaming that they're going to go to California, to a private school there, only to find out once they're accepted that that's really not going to work. So, talk openly about what the expectations and the limitations are. If you want them to be within a 3 to 4 hours, driving time, let them know that. And we've got search tools that will help you find all those schools. So, and discuss the desired goals from the college experience. Remember to think more than just, this school has my major. What do I want to become as a person? How will this school help me achieve that goal? Attend the college fairs and college visits, and pray for and with your son or daughter, that God would guide them step by step through the process. There are many schools that would be good fits, but there's some schools that are just going to feel more comfortable, and so again, in the visits you can find that out. Students' role, you need to spend the time necessary. There's no shortcut to this. It's going to be where you're going to be spending at least 4 years after college. You're not going to have your family support system with you there, so you need to research and find out what colleges, what the options are in different colleges, and which things are important to you. And you need to be the ones to contact the university for any reason. Parents, I know they are very, very busy. It is easy because we have time and we want to be involved in the process. It's easy to pick up the phone and make those phone calls. Don't do it. College, and it's not my rule, but colleges talk about that. We go to a dozen college visits a year where they're talking just to counselors, and that's mentioned almost every time. They want to know that you are mature enough to ask those questions and that it's your decision, so that you won't get there and suddenly find out that you don't know how to do those things. So if you have a question and you're not quite comfortable picking up the phone and calling, if you want to come to our office, Ms. Kilburn or I, we'll sit down, we'll talk it through with you, we'll dial the number, and we'll coach you through it. But a lot of schools will tell us that it's a check mark in the folder when students make that call, and it's a minus in the folder if the parents do it. It's well intended. It's just how it's received. Students should make the decision. Once you've given them options and parameters, they're going to be the ones living there for 4 years. So, help them through the process and then let them make that final decision. Keep us informed. Let us know if you've asked us for a transcript and you look 2 days later and the school hadn't received it. Don't panic. Just come tell us, and so that we can figure out what happened or why it's not there, or if if it's a busy time of year when it takes a week for them to upload the transcript. And pray for God's leading. Again, significant part of your life. It's where a lot of your worldview has been shaped all along. Many colleges are really going to challenge that and shake you. So you need to go in with some firm decisions in your mind about what that experience is going to be. We've talked about some of this. In Tennessee, the Hope Scholarship is $3,500 for the first 2 years. If you survive your first 2 years with your grades, you get the reward. It goes up for your last 2 years. In the General Assembly Merit, an extra $1,000. Tennessee Promise, 2 years free at community colleges. That can be a really good option. However, not every college will grant you transfer scholarships. So if you would go in as a freshman getting some scholarships, you need to think through the whole picture, whether it would cost you less to start in a 4-year school as opposed to a 2-year school. Financial and the Tennessee Promise, I'm going to be making some announcements. Students who are interested in that, I'm going to need to know about pretty soon, because I'll need to walk them through some steps. Financial aid workshops, again, October 17th at the Christian College Fair at Concord, September 12th, 7 o'clock here. That's next Tuesday night. And now I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Kilburn. So we set an hour. We're going to go another 10 to 15 minutes, but if anybody needs to leave, we won't be offended. This will be on Naviance and on NCAA and NAIA, and I'm going to cover Naviance for students, so next week as well, in a little more depth. But parents, you'll want to know what features are there.
All right, while I get set up, I'll just take a minute to introduce myself. Some of you, I just got an email today, and I sometimes forget about this because it was last year, but some of you may have known me as Miss Benton. For many years, I was known as Miss Benton, and last year that changed to Mrs. Kilburn when I got married last November. So I got an email yesterday, and a parent said, "Who is this Mrs. Kilburn? I've not heard of her before." That's me. So still the same person, but I got married it's actually almost a year anniversary coming up. And I also became a mom when I got married of 2 little girls, Tiffany and Bailey. Tiffany is 7 and Bailey's 3. And so life has been busy this past year for me, but hopefully my laptop will work so that I can show you. Okay. I'm really excited to show you guys Naviance. If you haven't used it yet, we're going to talk about it, and I'm going to show you really the best way to learn how to use it is to use it. But I will kind of walk you through what it is and how to use it tonight so that when you go home you can get on there and look around. Sometimes when we show this to students are like, oh great, one more thing that I have to learn how to use, and they don't realize how much easier this is going to make their college application process. The college application process is time-consuming and tedious and can be difficult in some ways, but this really simplifies it and makes it so much easier for students. So I'm going to go log in. Okay, to a student. Also, while I'm a B student pulled up, how many students in here are taking dual enrollment or parents have students currently taking dual enrollment? Okay, several of you. So when you came through the door, one of the sheets that you picked up was this one, the dual enrollment sheet. This is a presentation that I gave to students in the classroom a couple of weeks ago. All of the information that was covered is on here, but I'm just going to highlight a few things really quickly. An important thing to know is that there are some deadlines for dropping coming up, and there's a cost associated with dropping dual enrollment. So it's very important to be aware of those deadlines if you or your student are thinking about dropping the course. Eligibility, it's also important to know that you need to maintain a 2.75 dual enrollment GPA in order to maintain eligibility for the grant. You guys are all juniors, so you may want to go on and take another dual enrollment course next year. If so, you want to make sure to maintain that eligibility so that the grant will continue to help fund the cost of those courses. Speaking of cost, we've gotten a lot of email questions from Bryan College. Bryan College has sent out a number of emails this week. If you have gotten an email about tuition owed to Bryan College, it's important to follow up on that email. I called Bryan to clarify. If this is the first dual enrollment class you're taking and you're only taking one class, the dual enrollment grant will cover the cost of that class. But many of you received a bill from Bryan saying that you owe $500, $300, a lot of money. If this is your first class, you don't owe any money, but you do need to contact Bryan to let them know that you received that email in error, that you filled out the grant, and that grant money needs to be applied to your tuition. Don't just disregard those emails. Make sure to follow up with Bryan, because otherwise there could be just trouble and more emails that come your way for that.
Did they do that in class?
Mm-hmm. We did that together in class, so it's already done. They're in good shape for that. You don't have to worry about checking in on them. I've checked in on them to make sure that they've completed it. So they're in good shape. You just need to send an email just to clarify that it's been completed. There's a box that says communication. There's some emails that you can use to contact people at Bryan. A good one is online@bryan.edu. That goes straight to Stacy Gates, who is our dual enrollment representative with Bryan. She is very quick to help and very knowledgeable about what's going on there, so she'll be glad to help you if you have any trouble. Okay, so,
Would that come on the kids' email?
yes.
Okay.
Whatever email they put down when they filled out their application is where that will come. So this is Naviance. When you log in, this is what your dashboard looks like. This is what your students' dashboard looks like. Students have more rights in Naviance because they're trying to encourage them to take responsibility for this process. This is part of the transition to adulthood for students, and so it's a great opportunity for them to learn to take responsibility for this kind of stuff, and it's good practice. And we're glad to help them with that. If they want to bring their laptops into our office, we'll walk them through it. For a lot of students, this is very unfamiliar. It's confusing and it's easy to get lost in the steps, but we've done it so many times, it's really easy for us to help them walk through it, and it teaches them resourcefulness. If they bring their laptop in and ask for help, it teaches them to seek out help when they need it, which is a great life skill to have also. So when you log in, this is your homepage. Over on the right-hand side, there's a link that says Document Library. I'm going to click on that for a moment. And there's all these folders. These are all of the documents available in the school counseling office. So, for example, Mrs. Moore mentioned letters of recommendation. And she said, if you need one from a school counselor, you're going to need to fill out a student self-evaluation. This is for students. If you're a parent of a student who needs a school counselor letter, there's also a parent form for you to fill out. That's because the counselor letter is very broad in scope. We're writing about the big picture of the student. Teachers are writing about a very specific thing, which is how students perform in their classroom, which is very different from the counselor letter. We're writing about their strengths, their community involvement, who they are as an individual. It's much broader. So it's helpful for us to, what colleges want to hear us say is not a list of reasons that we like this student. The student's good at soccer, and they're a great friend, and they're really nice, and all these good things that they hear about every student. They want to hear specific examples of why those things are true. So like this student, one time, maybe I saw them help another student at lunch when they dropped their tray, and that showed me how much they step out and care about that student. Or maybe this student, when they went on a mission trip, I happened to know that on that mission trip, they took a leadership role and they were the youngest person on the team, or something like that that gives meat to the good things that we're saying about students. Super helpful. So if you guys can fill that out, those forms can be found on here under the college recommendation letter tab. You can download and edit them and email them to us is probably the easiest way to do that. But everything in the school counseling office is on here, all the college planning documents, everything that we have. So I would look through those folders and see what's in there. And then we're going to go back to the home page, and you can see on the left-hand side, there's lots of helpful links. So you may not know where to go to search for scholarships. Well, there's a link there for that, for NCAA registration, NAIA registration, for the ACT. All of those links are over on the left-hand side for you. So that just makes it easy. This is like a one-stop shop. It used to be that you would have to go to like a dozen or more websites to accomplish all of the things that you can do on this one website. So it's very helpful. So that kind of covers the homepage. There's also announcements about college visits that will show up on the homepage. So it's great to log in regularly to be on the lookout for those also. If we go under the college tab, there's several resources that will help you there. One is on the left-hand side or in the second box. There's a number of ways that you can research colleges. So you can search in the box if you know the college that you're looking for, and you can just search for that specific college, type it in over here, press go, and it's going to bring up a ton of information about that college. Everything that you need to know about the school. That's not going to give you the full picture. You still need to visit, but it's a good start to help you narrow down your choices and choose which ones are worth visiting. So then, let's say you're a student who doesn't even have any colleges on their list yet. That's okay, but we need to start working on that. One way that you might start working on that is by using Supermatch College Search. In the second box, it's the first link listed, and if you go on there, if we click that, it's going to bring up this page, and on the left-hand side, there's going to be several orange boxes. You can fill out as many or as few of these as you like, but for each one that you fill out, it's going to narrow down your search for you and suggest some colleges. So that might be a good way to get started and to start adding some colleges to your list. When you're ready to add colleges, you're going to go back to the college tab and you're going to click colleges I'm thinking about. And you're going to add colleges to this list. That way, Mrs. Moore and I can see the colleges on your list. If a college comes to visit and it's on your list, we'll make sure that you're aware of it. It just helps us know where you're at in the college search process and help you with that. The career tab, we have used that in the classroom some. So there's some career links and career assessment links on here for you to use. There's also this thing down here called Road Trip Nation. This is really neat if you have time and if you're thinking about college majors as you start with the college application process. There's videos on here where these kids have gone around the country and interviewed people in different occupations. So it's a little bit more fun to see people talk about their jobs than to just read about the jobs that are listed on here. So that's a great way to do it. So there's those free videos on there that you can look through. Then if you click the About Me tab, you can see the work that your student has done, or students, you can see the work that you've done in class on here. If you go down and select Portfolio, I'm going to select Portfolio, you can see all the career assessment results listed on one page for you so that you can kind of remember what your career assessment said, if it suggested any careers that you might think about as college majors. Lots of really good information about yourself on there. Also, under the About Me tab, another helpful thing is your journal and your resume. So Mrs. Moore mentioned your resume. As you're filling out college applications, maybe you fill out 5 college applications. Do you want to write your activity list 5 times? Or would it be easier to just write it once on here, have it saved for yourself forever, and then just copy and paste it in an application? It simplifies the process, and also we can view it, your teachers can view it, and so everyone can access that information if we need to. It can only help you to fill that out. The other thing is the journal. If you take college visits, we recommend taking as many visits as you can for the colleges that you're interested in applying to. It really helps you get a sense of whether or not that college is a good fit in a way that you will never be able to online. However, when you take college visits, when you've taken maybe 5, 6, 7 visits, they start to run together in your brain. You're like, oh, which was the one that had that community center that I really liked, the campus center with all of this stuff to do? Was that UTC or was that UTK? Or, so after each visit, take the time to write a journal entry under the journal tab. You can add a new entry, and that will help you keep track of your visits, and it will show us, if you share it with your school counselor, what you've done so that we can kind of walk alongside you through that process. All right, so that kind of covers Naviance. Any questions about Naviance?
How do we get access to that?
Great question. If you haven't accessed it yet, email your school counselor and we can send you a registration code. You're going to go on the CAK Warriors website and you're going to select N for Naviance on the A to Z listing. When you select N, it's going to bring you, Naviance will be an option. It'll bring you right to the login page and you'll enter that registration code to create an account for yourself.
Okay, and does that tie into our child?
It does. It ties you to your child's account so that you're linked together. You can see what your child's doing on that account and kind of help us hold them accountable to make sure that they're working on this stuff because it's very important. So that's how you log in. Email us. We'd be glad to send you that registration code. Also, there's an app that you can download for Naviance. You can download it. I cannot because I don't have an iPhone. But if you have an iPhone, you can download it's called the Naviance Student Mobile app. It's free. And it helps you access this college information anywhere you go. So like if you're on a college visit, you can pull it up right on your smartphone. So that would be a great thing to download on your phone when you get home tonight. One other thing that I'm going to cover just briefly, a lot of you, I think over 90% of our students play a sport. If you plan on playing a college sport, it's really important to know that this year is the year that you need to register for NCAA and or NAIA. That information is set out for you as you walk out the door. There's a table inside the Commons that's got 2 handouts, NCAA and NAIA. The registration process is very simple. You just go online, list your name, your phone number, your contact information, you pay the registration fee, and that's pretty much it. Once you do that, it will put you on a list for us to send your transcripts to that agency. So we'll do that for you. That's all that you have to do. But know that there are some requirements that they're going to be looking for on those transcripts. So they're different for the different organizations. For NCAA, they're looking for 16 core classes. Every year these requirements go up for NCAA. So recently a change that they made was, in addition to having 16 core classes, the first 10 are locked in at the beginning of your senior year. So your last chance to retake classes online, they don't accept credit recovery, but if you want to retake the whole class, they'll accept that for a better grade. You can do it like in an online format. They will only accept it through the end of your junior year, including the summer after your junior year. Once class starts and once you become a senior and you step foot on campus, you cannot retake those 10 classes anymore. That's your last chance. So it's important to know that. Then they'll look at your GPA through the end of your senior year, only for the 16 core classes. So this is important to know because they're not looking at the GPA that's printed on your transcript, right? Because that's all the classes that you've taken. They're going to recalculate just those 16 classes and create an NCAA core GPA. UT does a similar thing. When they look at your GPA, they recalculate a core GPA. So the minimum core GPA for Division I is 2.3, and for Division II, it's a 2.2. They also use what's called a sliding scale, where they're going to compare your GPA with your ACT score, and you also have to have a minimum ACT score. When you look at that sliding scale, it's going to look very strange because they also do something weird with the ACT score. They add all 4 subject scores to create a sum score. So like, nobody makes a 70 on the ACT, right? But your sum score, when you add it up, could be that high because they're adding the 4 individual scores. So just know that if it looks weird, that's how they've come to that number. For NAIA, you have to meet 2 out of 3 requirements, and those are either a 2.0 GPA, an 18 on the ACT, or in the top half of your graduating class. So 2 of those 3 requirements will make you eligible for NAIA. If you have questions or need help with any part of that process, we're glad to help. Bring your laptop into our office, students. We'll walk through it with you. We've got tons of information and materials, and we've done it so many times that it's really easy for us to help you with that kind of stuff. All right, if you have questions, Mrs. Moore has A through K of the alphabet. I have L through Z of the alphabet. Email us anytime, stop by. If you have questions after tonight, I'm sorry for keeping you guys so late, but hopefully this information was really helpful for you. We'd be glad to stay and answer questions if you have some tonight. And thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate it.